It's been a number of months since I've done one of these, so I've definitely bought some books, received some books, and bought some more books. So let's look at the books. That was. About 2 months ago, I did go to Ayr, which is in the UK. While I was there, I took a little trip into the Waterstones and picked up 2 books. The first book is Legends of the Condor Heroes, A Hero Born. This is touted as the Chinese Lord of the Rings, and I've been really interested in picking up this series. I love Lord of the Rings, and I love reading about different cultural and mythological influences in my fantasy series, so this sounds right up my street. It does get a wee bit more mixed reviews, but a lot of the complaints seem to be on the translation, because this was written in Mandarin, I believe. Translated from the Chinese by Anna Holmwood. Yeah, so it's been translated. And the biggest complaints seem to be about the translation, and the changes in some of the names and things like that seem to be very controversial for people who can read both English and the original text. So I'm hoping going into this completely blind, having not read the original text, it won't be that big an issue for me. Because aside from that, the actual story and the characters get really, really highly praised. So yeah, if you've read this, let me know what you thought of it. I want to know what you thought of it, because I want to know if it's any good. I also grabbed Flowers for Algernon. Classic sci-fi is a part of the genre that I've really not delved much into, mainly because it seems really threatening. They're all very theme heavy and thought heavy, and a lot of the complaints for that sort of era of sci-fi is the lack of character work. Being a character reader, that's kind of put me off a wee bit. However, I've heard the complete opposite about Flowers for Algernon. A couple people I'm friends with have read this recently and gave it rave reviews and said it's very emotional, and I am always here to be traumatized. Let's get traumatized. And the reviews have been so rave reviews that I know absolutely nothing about this other than it has a mouse on the cover and on the other edition of the cover, and that is traumatic. And that's all I know about the entire book, and it's probably one of the most anticipated reads that I have coming up on my TBR, which is bizarre, but tells you how good the reviews were. I will probably do a reading vlog of this, because if it's as traumatic as it seems to be, then I think it might be entertaining. Next up, I grabbed Yellowface. Now this is not my normal type of read at all. It's a literary book that's it's touted as a thriller and has a lot of dark humor, but I have already read it, and it was pretty good. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't paint it as a thriller. I do have a reading vlog going up, so you hear more of my thoughts of it then, but I don't know what drew me to this. I think it was the fact that it takes place in the publishing industry. This is about 2 writers. One is Asian and one is white. When the Asian writer dies, the white author takes that Asian author's manuscript and publishes it under her own name. A sensible person wouldn't reveal their thoughts when they have a video going up later with their thoughts, but just a super quick my thoughts. I enjoyed it. I think it covered a lot of interesting themes. I think the character is an awful person, but really interesting to read from. It's really fast read. It's really well written. I would have liked the author to delve a wee bit deeper into the themes and also maybe just be a little more. It just felt really straightforward and safe. I kind of wanted it to go places it didn't, but I still did enjoy it, and I think R.F. Kuang, or Rebecca F. Kuang, as she's got her name here, is super, super talented, and I'm really glad to still have picked up and read it. Next up, we have the very chunky and heavy pile of Songs of Chaos by Michael R. Miller. Michael was really kind enough to send me these. This is a self-published Dragon Rider fantasy series, and the artwork on each book is absolutely stunning. I believe it's done by Randy Vargas. It looks like his style. I could be wrong on that. Editing Andrew, who's the artist? Cool, thanks Editing Andrew. This is a series I've had my eye on for quite a while, because it does get really good reviews, and it's dragons. We know how I liketh the dragons. The premise is that dragons don't tolerate weakness, so if a dragon has an issue at birth, they're usually killed or left to die. But Holt Cook, who works in the kitchen, ironically, defies the order and rescues a doomed egg and vows to protect the blind dragon within. So the main dragon in this series is blind, which I think is something that could be really interesting, because I've never read anything like that before. And the last book, Defiant, in the trilogy came out in July, so it's just finished. Next up we have The Sons of Darkness by Gaurav Mohanty. This is the Broken Binding edition, so it's got nice stenciled edges and it's signed by the author. Gaurav is such a nice guy. He did actually send me the paperback back before he got picked up by Head of Zeus. This is one of my most anticipated reads of the year. I'm going to pick this up very soon and I will do a full video on it. And I knew I was going to love this book, so I had to grab the Broken Binding edition just to support a friend. And because it's stunning. Next up, Secret Project 2 and 3 have arrived over the last 2 months. And say what you will about the books, the physical editions from Dragonsteel are absolutely stunning. Artwork in both of these is just incredible. The amount of detail they've got in the chapter headers, the full page pieces of art, the smaller pieces of art throughout the book, in both the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England and also Yumi and the Night Painter. They're just incredible. As was Tress, to be fair. I was a little bit more mixed with the Frugal's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. I probably wouldn't have gone out and bought this fancy edition for it. I did still really enjoy it, it just wasn't my favourite. It's probably one of my least favourite Sanderson, but still a good book. However, I am delighted that I got this edition of Yumi and the Night Painter because this has been one of my favourite reads of the year so far. I had a lot of fun with it and the pieces of artwork in this are absolutely stunning. If you've not read Yumi and the Night Painter yet, I highly recommend. And I do have reading vlogs for both the Wizard's Guide Handbook video and also Yumi and the Night Painter. Next up, I got the Broken Binding edition of Ill-Born. This book is absolutely stunning. Artwork is done by Katrina Prince over on Instagram and Twitter, or X. I hate that, I hate it. And this is the third self-published special edition to come from Broken Binding's new leg of their company, and they have yet to disappoint. This is an absolutely incredible edition of a fantastic book. I read Ill-Born last year and it was incredible. And Daniel is a really nice guy, so if you haven't checked out Ill-Born yet, I highly recommend. And the sequel, Adjuel Sin, came out at the start of this year. I have not got to it yet, but I do have a copy ready for when I get to it. But look, it's a chunky boy. It's only so many hours in a day. And I know I said this last time with Ryan Cahill's book, but it's absolutely amazing to see the self-published books can look this good. The first book they did was the Pillars of Peace bind up. This was kind of before they announced that they were going to start doing special editions of self-published fantasy books. However, it was still in association with Broken Binding and it also is done by the same artist, Katrina Prince. And then when they announced it at the end of last year at FantasyCon, they announced that they were doing a special edition of Blood and Fire with Ryan Cahill. Looks absolutely incredible as well. So this is technically the third special edition indie book that they've released so far, but I know they're doing one for the 11th cycle, and I believe they have some others in the works as well. And I've read of Blood and Fire, great book. I know Mike from Mike's Book Reviews is currently reading the series and really enjoying it too. Ill-Born is also terrific. It's a fantastic book. Lots of great character work and a really fast read despite the fact that it's like 700 pages. And I have read the first book in the Pillars of Peace, The Look of a King, which is also a great book. It's a shorter, faster read, very classical fantasy with lots of twists and turns and a lovable cast. You know you're in good hands with the Broken Binding. Continuing on with the theme of the Broken Binding here, that's where most of my money goes nowadays. We have book 1 and 2 of the Chronicles of the Wolf Queen. The first being The Wolf of Oren Yarrow and the second being the Ikasar Falcon. I don't know much about this series other than I know Elliot Brooks really enjoyed it, and also my friend Sarah over at Kinds of Insanity read them and really enjoyed them, so I'm excited to get to both of them as well eventually at some point, maybe, hopefully. Okay, next up, I don't know why I bought this. I didn't know anything about it, I just gave into the hype. Fourth Wing. I didn't know anything about it, and then I got this in the mail and I read Brutal Games, Grumpy Dragons, Sizzling Sexual Tension. Then Library of a Viking put this on Twitter. I assumed it was just a nice dragon fantasy, but it seems to be of the spicy variety, which is not something I normally pick up. However, I've got it now. I might do a reading vlog for it because I know it is super popular and a lot of people do really seem to enjoy it. So do you want to see that? Should I read this? It's not what I thought it was, and then I bought it and now I'm looking at it and I know more about it. I'm like, if I knew what I knew now, I probably wouldn't have bought it. But I've got it, so I might as well read it. Okay, last two books, I bought them with a token that I got for my birthday on August 4th. And the first one should be no surprise to anybody. Cyberpunk 2077, no coincidence. This was the year I really found that I really enjoy Cyberpunk. I enjoyed the game a lot. I loved the Edge Runners Netflix show. I really enjoyed A Witch's Sin from Daniel Green. So when there was a Cyberpunk novel coming out, I was going to be there. And I plan to read this very, very soon. This is about a large crew who are doing a heist. They've all been blackmailed into doing this heist. Sounds like it'll be very mysterious and hopefully a lot of Cyberpunk fun. And after getting that, I still had some money on the card, so I ended up getting the Forever War, which I've seen being some people's favorite book of all time. I know DK Pike, who is an author. In fact, he's the author of, it's in the other room, Fauville, which I really need to get to reading and finish. But he says this is one of his favorite books of all time, if not his favorite. It just gives a really good name. And after getting the flowers for Algernon, the fact that this was the same edition, I thought, let's give it a go. That's all of the books that I bought or received or got for my birthday over the last 2 months. Let me know what books you've received recently. Have you read any of these? Which ones should I prioritize? I am reading a little bit less than I would like to because I'm back from my holidays and I'm jumping into writing book 2 of my series. That's the first book. I have a vlog from Spain hopefully coming up this weekend where I read a handful of books while I'm in Spain, funnily enough. So watch out for that. Thank you very much for watching. A real book. Outro. There ain't no way that's all fitting in the thumbnail. Oh no. There's so many. Oh, the camera's not wide. Easy does it. Easy does it. Oh man, they're not all. It's a stupid.